Corey Bigelow. What is up, buddy? Hello, Corey. We have seen builders refusing to do speculative homes for 6 to 8 months. Interesting. I'm seeing more handymen going after wood fences. Absolutely. The low end wood fences are absolutely seeing a lot of handymen come into it. And I'm just, I don't know how to say this without this sounding like I'm throwing shade at somebody, but I'm not. In general, there's a lot of contractors that see that as like a base wood fence as an easy thing, and then they get humbled pretty quickly. So so you would see this more in home builders, right? That are looking for the cheapest fence to get put in, that they can call a fence so they can add some value to the home without actually adding a lot of expense to the home. And so on some of these fences, I think handyman might be a stretch, but we're seeing a lot of that, which as a fence company, like, I don't love it because it makes our industry look worse in the short term, because those fences, there's some on the way to my house that are probably 6 months old that are rough. Specifically the gates. I mean, you guys that are professional builders, you understand this. The gates are the hardest to get right. And you can look at a gate and have a pretty good idea the skill level of the person that built it. So don't love it for us for the short term. But as a fence industry, I mean, it means a lot of fences are going to be replaced in the longer term. But yeah, so it's weird that you're seeing home builders refuse to do spec homes for 6 to 8 months, because still, and this probably varies market to market, but I think nationwide, we're still in a housing shortage, single family home housing shortage. Now there's a ton of apartments going up. So multifamily, there's probably less shortage in that market. But there are segments of the homeownership or even rentals that don't want to live in an apartment, right? So if you picked me up out of my house today and said I had to go find a place to live, we're not taking my whole circus and putting us in an apartment. Like, that just, I don't see that happening. We're going to a home. So home builders, I don't know. I mean, now they've got their thumb a little bit closer to the pulse, I'm sure. So maybe local home builders see writing on the wall. Maybe there's too many builders in the market, and there's still a bit of a shortage, but maybe there's too many builders building towards that shortage. I tell you, one thing we're seeing is, I don't know how to turn this in terms of size, but private landlord groups. So not private equity, not these large 1,000 home groups or anything like that. But we did work for a couple that have a company, but they self-manage, they just oversee the whole thing themselves. It's not really a management company. We did 10 houses for them earlier this year. They had bought brand new, very nice houses. I mean, these were 3 to 4 bedroom. I would guess 2 bath, 2-car garage, right? So it's a typical starter home. 10 or 11 of these things we did. And what was even more interesting, so we gave them prices on kind of our base fence, and then we also gave them a price. So it'd be cedar materials, pickets, rails on a treated pine post. I hate building fence on treated pine posts, but there's still a market. We're not going down into treated pine pickets and rails. There's just a level of, there's a standard of quality that we're just only good with. So we're not doing pine pickets and rails. Anyway, we give them pricing for our economy, and we also gave them price with cedar materials, pickets, rails on steel posts, a Postmaster steel. And on all the homes, they went Postmaster steel. We also added a 4-foot tall trash enclosure at every one of them, cedar materials on steel post. Now, that's kind of interesting. So we usually don't see investors go in that route. Well, last week they reached out to us. They have another 17 homes that need fences and trash enclosures, and another 7 homes that already had fences, but they need trash enclosures as well. So apparently our market is still good for investors to come into. And I measured 5 of them, 6 of them yesterday, and I'd say all but 1 or 2 were occupied. So I don't know. So for home builders now, in our market, you've got kind of one of two. I'm sure there's several more, but you either build to sell, or there is a builder group that builds. They'll try to sell it for good money, but if they don't sell it, they'll rent it, right? So they've got their own property management side as well. I don't know. Different markets are different, apparently. Our market, I think, is still going strong as far as home builders, apparently, because by where I live, there's new neighborhoods popping up into fields there's a new neighborhood that goes up every 6 months, it feels like. Mark says the fence industry has so much competition because it's low bar to entry. You don't need a ton of money to get started. Absolutely. And you know what? I think if not a lot of us, if not all of us, are thankful for that, because at one point or another, that's how we started, right? So my grandfather started this company in 1955, likely because there wasn't a high barrier of entry. The bar wasn't set too high. So I'm thankful for that. And you start seeing this in industries, not necessarily just in fence, you're seeing it in fence, but once you get companies that are in and established, they want to start raising that bar, because then it holds out competition. But that's how they got there, right? So I think we need to keep that in mind too, is I think every one of us is thankful that the bar hasn't been set that high. Now, we can choose to set our own bars, it may be in terms of quality expectations, right? But artificial barriers of entry, setting the bar a little bit higher artificially, maybe through licensing or et cetera, I don't know that it works, and I don't know that it's effective, right? Those are absolutely the same thing, works or effective. And I don't know that they keep competition out. So it is low. But I think we should be thankful for it. Those of us that have been in for a while and have found success here, it's because we were able to get in an industry that had a low barrier of entry. The bar was set pretty low. Now you can choose to climb up, right? So you hardly ever, I'm trying to think of an example, see someone go directly into commercial industrial work, right? Typically it's starting residential, find some success there, do really well. Some companies stay there and they do very well at that. Some choose to climb the ladder into commercial industrial, maybe going into bidding work. Just whatever that is. There's some guys that do highway work, the highway barricades, the interstate barricades, that do very well at that work too. But now that barrier of entry is a bit higher yet, right? So I don't know. You're right. The bar is set pretty low, but I think a lot of us should be thankful that it is. Mark goes on to say, this year we had nearly 50% growth. Damn. My year was spent almost entirely training and reacting. Next year, I'm hoping we only grow 10%, so we have time to refine all of our processes. 100%. 50% growth is wild. It is. I'm thinking of where we ended up at like 25, 26%. Double that. No, thank you. We could figure it out, I guess. But yeah, 10%, 11% is where personally, and this is not the advice of a financial advisor, I'm the furthest thing from that. But 10 or 11% feels right. 12% maybe. Low double digits feels right. You don't really want to get into single digits because you're getting close to inflation. But low double digits feels right for that exact reason, Mark. So you can have time to refine all the processes. So you can set up a camp. We're going to say, hey, this campsite, we're going to be at this campsite for the next year. And this campsite is going to be a time for refining our processes, refining our team, building our leadership, whatever that looks like for us, creating standard operating procedures. So we're working with Nick and the AFA, Nick, Jim, and the team at the AFA to build out a online training site for Ozark Fence, to where all of the training's right there. One, we'll have access to AFA training that they're doing. Nick and his team are doing a ton of work on getting that training available online. But then two, we can internally start creating training ourselves. Pretty excited for that. So that we can have a year of 10 or 11%. We'll reevaluate next year. It might be that we want 2 years. Maybe we want to stay at this campsite for another year because we're seeing good results, right? And that we're resting, we're recuperating, and we're ready to push on for more growth. Can you hike? Can you make an entire hike all by yourself? Sure. Without camping? Sure. There's people that do these, whatever ultra marathons. Sure, you could run that far, but you got to train for it and you got to be ready for the physical ramifications of that. Or you can make the same trip, camp along the way, and end up better for it. So, and arguably probably go further. It's not arguably, you could go further if you're just camping along the way. 10% feels right, Mark. It really does feel right.